Desperate times. In the 23rd century, humanity found itself locked in a desperate war for survival against the mighty Zorgon Empire. For decades, the Zorgons had conquered world after world, their advanced technology and vast armadas overwhelming all who stood in their path. Now, they had set their sights on Earth, the last free bastion of humanity. The war had raged for years, with heavy losses on both sides. But recently, the Zorgons had unleashed a terrifying new weapon, a hydro bomb that could shatter entire planets. The first human colony to fall to this planet cracker was New Eden. The lush, idyllic world was reduced to a debris field in mere hours. Over 1 million lives were snuffed out in an instant. The news sent shockwaves through the human alliance. If the Zorgons could destroy planets at will, what chance did Earth have? In the halls of power, grim-faced leaders debated their options. Some advocated for a preemptive surrender, hoping to spare humanity from annihilation. Others urged a redoubling of the war effort, refusing to bow to alien tyranny. Amidst this turmoil, a daring plan began to take shape. If the hydro weapon could not be countered, perhaps it could be stolen. The Earth Defense Council authorized the formation of an elite strike team, the Sigma Force, to infiltrate Zorgon space and seize the planet cracker technology. It was a desperate gamble, but one that could turn the tide of the war. Leading the Sigma Force was Captain Jace Corden, a battle-hardened veteran known for his unorthodox tactics and indomitable will. He handpicked his team from the best of the best, the toughest, smartest, most daring soldiers Earth had to offer. They were humanity's last hope. As the Sigma Force prepared for its fateful mission, the Zorgon onslaught continued unabated. Colony after colony fell before the alien advance, millions more lives lost. On Earth, the population huddled in underground shelters as the skies darkened with enemy ships. The end seemed near. But in a hidden bunker, Jace rallied his troops. "We stand on the edge of oblivion," he said, his voice ringing with conviction. "But we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. Today, we strike back. Today, we take the fight to the Zorgons, and we will not stop until we have seized the key to their power and turned it against them. For Earth." His words were met with a roar of approval. The Sigma Force loaded into their stealth ship, the Phantom, and blasted off towards Zorgon space. They were outnumbered and outgunned, facing impossible odds. But they were humanity's last hope, and they would not fail. As the Phantom streaked through the stars, Jace stared out at the infinite void, his jaws set with determination. The fate of humanity rested on his shoulders, but he would bear that burden, no matter the cost. For Earth, for freedom, for the future, he would fight to his last breath, and if he fell, he would make damn sure he took as many Zorgons with him as he could. The first step was to breach the Zorgon lines and reach their central research station in the Koruvax system. There, intelligence indicated, the secrets of the hydro weapon were being kept. It would take all of their skill, all of their courage to get in, get the intel they needed, and get out alive. But the Sigma Force were no strangers to impossible missions. They had faced death 100 times and always came out on top. As the Phantom dove towards the looming shape of the Zorgon station, Jace felt a grim smile tug at his lips. The aliens had no idea what was coming for them. Behind enemy lines, the Phantom sliced through the void, its black hull barely distinguishable against the backdrop of space. Inside, the Sigma Force checked their gear with practiced efficiency. Pulse rifles, plasma grenades, exo armor. They were deep in Zorgon territory now, far from any friendly forces. If they were discovered, there would be no rescue, no escape. They would fight and they would win, or they would die trying. As the stealth ship approached the massive Zorgon research station, Jace outlined the plan one last time. They would dock under the guise of a captured human vessel and then split into 2 teams. One, led by Jace himself, would infiltrate the research levels and secure the hydro weapon data. The other, under the command of his second, Lieutenant Kira Vance, would plant explosives in the reactor core. Once the intel was secured, they would detonate the charges and escape in the ensuing chaos. It was a high-risk, high-reward gambit, but the Sigma Force were used to playing for keeps. As the Phantom latched onto the station's hull, the strike team readied themselves. The airlock hissed open, revealing a dark, alien passageway. Jace nodded to his team. "All right, Sigma, let's do this. Stay sharp and watch your backs. Move out." With silent efficiency, they slipped into the Zorgon base. The corridors were dim and twisted, the air thick with the stench of ozone. Strange, chittering sounds echoed in the distance, the Zorgons themselves, bipedal insectoids with razor-sharp claws and pitiless compound eyes. The team's HUDs flickered as they scanned for threats, motion trackers sweeping the gloom. Kira and her demolition crew peeled off towards the lower levels as Jace led the way up to the research sector. They encountered sporadic resistance as they ascended, lone Zorgon guards swiftly neutralized with muffled pulse shots. But so far, their intrusion seemed undetected. The base's central AI was still identifying them as an authorized vessel. Reaching the secured labs, Jace interfaced his suit's hacking module with the locking mechanism. Zorgon code scrolled across his visor as the onboard VI wormed its way through the firewalls. With a muted beep, the locks disengaged and the blast doors slid open. The chamber within was vast, dominated by a suspension tank in which swirled an oily black liquid, the hydro weapon in its rawest form. Banks of alien computers ringed the room, reams of data flickering across their screens. Jace motioned his team forward. "All right, bag it and tag it. I want every scrap of data in here downloaded ASAP. Let's move." As the Sigma techs got to work, Jace kept watch, his rifle trained on the doors. Minutes ticked by with agonizing slowness. Then, a sudden klaxon shattered the tense silence. The Zorgons knew they were here. Chittering war cries echoed through the halls as the aliens converged on the lab, plasma sizzling. The Sigma Force dove for cover, returning fire with disciplined bursts. Screeches filled the air as Zorgons fell, their exoskeletons shattered by pulse rounds. "Sir, data secured." One of the techs yelled over the chaos. Jace triggered his comm. "Kira, charges set." "Affirmative." Her clipped tones crackled back. "We're Oscar mic'd to the extraction point." "Roger that," Jace replied, dropping another charging Zorgon with a well-placed shot. "All units, fall back. We are leaving." Laying down a blistering barrage of covering fire, the Sigma Force fought their way back to the Phantom, Zorgon reinforcements hot on their heels. Plasma bolts sizzled past, scorching the bulkheads. They piled into the ship, slamming the airlock controls. As the Phantom tore away from the station, Jace saw Zorgon ships rising in pursuit, their hulls bristling with weaponry. "Punch it," he yelled to the pilot as he strapped in. The Phantom's engines flared, hurling them into the void, just as the station erupted into a miniature sun behind them, the demo charges ripping it apart from within. The Zorgon ships were closing fast, lances of plasma streaking past the Phantom's hull. In the cramped confines of the stealth ship, the Sigma Force grimly manned the weapon stations, pouring fire back at their pursuers. The ship bucked and juked as the inertial dampeners struggled to compensate, throwing the crew against their restraints. One Zorgon frigate burst into flame as a barrage of pulse missiles struck home. Another spun away, venting atmosphere from a gaping hull breach. But there were too many, an endless swarm of angry hornets intent on avenging their shattered nest. A lucky plasma blast struck the Phantom's flank, sending damage alarms howling. Shields down to 20%. The pilot shouted, hands flying over the controls. "We can't take another hit like that." Jace gritted his teeth, mind racing. They'd accomplished their mission, secured the hydro weapon data. But it would all be for naught if they didn't make it back to Earth. "Think, damn it, think." His eyes fell on the nav display, widening as an idea formed. It was crazy, suicidal even. But what choice did they have? Bearing 274 Mark 019, he barked, full burn. But sir, the pilot protested. That heading, it'll take us into the maelstrom. I know, Jace said grimly. The maelstrom, a swirling vortex of unstable spacetime, a graveyard of ruined ships. To enter it was certain death. But the Zorgans couldn't follow them in. It was their only chance. All hands, brace for impact. He rolled as the Phantom plunged into the seething abyss. The ship lurched sickeningly, alarms screaming, view screens shattering into static. The crew clung on desperately as the hull groaned under the strain, the very fabric of reality twisting around them. For a terrifying eternity, they were lost in the howling void. And then, with a bone-rattling jolt, they were through, the ship cartwheeling into the starry calm beyond the maelstrom's far edge. Jace hauled himself upright, head-ringing. Damage report. Hulls in one piece, barely, the pilot replied shakily. FTL drive is toast though. We're on sublight from here out. Jace nodded warily. It would be a long journey home, but they were alive, and they had the key to humanity's salvation in their grasp. The Zorgans would rue the day they challenged the children of Earth. As the battered Phantom limped towards friendly space, Jace allowed himself a fleeting moment of satisfaction. Against all odds, a Sigma force had triumphed. Now, the real work could begin. The work of turning the aliens' own weapon against them. The work of vengeance and of victory. Hail Hydro! The journey back to Earth was arduous, the crippled Phantom forced to skulk through the interstellar backwaters to avoid Zorgon patrols. For weeks, the strike team huddled in the dimly lit confines of the ship, nursing their wounds and praying their luck would hold. But finally, battered and weary, they reached a sol system. As the blue-green orb of humanity's homeworld swelled in the viewports, Jace felt a surge of emotion. They had made it. Against all odds, they had struck a blow against the alien foe and returned to tell the tale. The Phantom set down at a secret Earth Defense Force base deep in the Rocky Mountains, a hidden redoubt shielded from prying eyes. As the strike team disembarked, they were greeted by a phalanx of grim-faced scientists and stony-eyed generals. The hydro weapon data was whisked away to a secure lab, a prize beyond value. For days, Jace and his team were debriefed, every detail of their mission dissected and analyzed. Then, they were told to rest, to recuperate from their ordeal. But there could be no true rest, not now. The clock was ticking. It was only a matter of time before the Zorgans regrouped and struck back with all their terrible might. A week after their return, Jace was summoned to a top-secret briefing. In a dimly lit war room, he found himself facing the most powerful people on Earth, the President, the Secretary of Defense, the Joint Chiefs. And at the head of the table, a face he recognized from countless newsvids and propaganda holos, Dr. Elena Sartov, the EDF's chief xenocience advisor. Captain Cordin, she began without preamble, her voice rich with a heavy Russian accent. Thanks to your efforts, we have begun to unravel the secrets of the Zorgon's hydro weapon, and what we have found is remarkable. She tapped a control, and a holo bloomed to life above the table, a slowly rotating molecular structure, intricate and alien. The substance you recovered is not, strictly speaking, a weapon at all. It is a form of programmable nanobiotechnology, unlike anything we have ever seen. When introduced into an ecosystem, it can rapidly alter the biochemistry of all living things, reshaping them at the genetic level. Jace frowned. That sounds an awful lot like a weapon to me, Doctor. Dr. Sartov inclined her head. Indeed, the Zorgans have weaponized it, using it to break down the very building blocks of life on worlds that defy them. But its potential applications are far broader. In theory, it could be used to enhance biological organisms, granting them increased strength, speed, resilience, even new abilities. A murmur ran around the table, a mix of awe and apprehension. The president leaned forward, his face grave. Doctor, Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? Dr. Sartov met his gaze unflinchingly. Mr. President, we stand at the brink of annihilation. The Zorgans outnumber us, outgun us. As things stand, our defeat is only a matter of time. But with this, we have a chance. A chance to level the playing field, to match our foes' power, biology for biology. I propose immediate testing, followed by rapid deployment to all EDF combat units. We can forge our soldiers into living weapons, a match for any Zorgon warrior. Now hold on just a minute, the Secretary of Defense blustered. We're talking about experimenting on our own people here. The risks. The risks are nothing compared to the certainty of extinction. Dr. Sartov snapped, her eyes flashing. We have no choice. This is our last best hope. The only question is, are we brave enough to seize it? Silence descended, heavy with the weight of the choice before them. Jace found himself speaking, almost without volition. I volunteer. All eyes turned to him, wide with surprise. He met their gazes steadily. My team and I have seen firsthand what the Zorgans can do. If this nanotech can give us a fighting chance, then I say we take it. Better to die on our feet as augmented warriors than on our knees as beaten dogs. Power corrupts. The decision was made. The hydro-nanotech would be weaponized, turned into a tool for human enhancement. In secret facilities across the globe, the brightest minds of Earth threw themselves into the work with a grim determination born of desperation. Jace and his team were the first to undergo the transformation. In a stark white lab, they were injected with the seething black substance, the alien nanites surging into their bloodstreams. The pain was unimaginable, a searing agony that seemed to go on forever as their very DNA was rewritten. But when it was over, they emerged changed, transformed into something more than human. They were faster now, stronger, their senses heightened to an almost preternatural degree. They could run for miles without tiring, lift weights that would have crushed an ordinary man. Their wounds healed in moments, bullets and blades turned aside by skin that had become as tough as battle steel. They were, in every sense, super soldiers, the first of a new breed of warrior. And they were not alone. Across Earth, the ranks of the enhanced grew, men and women reforged into living weapons. In training camps and war zones, they honed their new abilities, learning to wield the gifts the hydrotech had bestowed upon them. They became the tip of the spear in the war against the Zorgans, striking with a speed and fury the aliens could not match. For a time, it seemed as though the tide was turning. The enhanced soldiers drove the Zorgans back from world after world, their nano-augmented might more than a match for the aliens' advanced technology. On 100 battlefields, the Hydro troops became legends, whispered of in equal parts awe and terror. But as the war ground on, a shadow began to fall across the victory. For the nanotech that had transformed humanity's warriors was changing them in other, more insidious ways. Slowly, subtly, it began to twist their minds, warping their emotions and desires. It started small, a sharpness of temper here, a flash of cruelty there. But it grew, fed by the rush of power the nanotech provided. The enhanced soldiers began to see themselves as superior, as more than human. And with that belief came a dangerous hubris, a disregard for the lives and rights of the unenhanced. Jace saw it happening, saw the darkness taking root in the hearts of his brothers and sisters in arms. He tried to fight it, tried to hold on to his humanity in the face of the nanotech's insidious whispers, but it was a losing battle. Day by day, he felt himself slipping, felt the person he had been subsumed beneath the cold, merciless logic of the enhancement. And he was not alone. Across Earth, the enhanced grew ever more brutal, ever more tyrannical. They turned their strength against the people they had once sworn to protect, ruling over the unenhanced with an iron fist. The dream of human unity, of a world united against the alien threat, crumbled to ashes beneath the march of their jackboots. The unenhanced resisted, of course. They fought back with all the courage and tenacity of the human spirit. But against the might of the Hydro troops, they could not hope to stand. In city after city, the rebellions were crushed, the dream of freedom drowned in blood. And all the while, the Zorgans watched from the stars, biding their time. They had sown the seeds of Earth's destruction, and now they need only wait for the harvest, for a house divided against itself cannot stand. Peace through strength. Jace stood on the edge of a precipice, gazing out over the shattered ruins of what had once been a thriving human city. The air was thick with the stench of smoke and death, the streets below choked with rubble and twisted metal. In the distance, the flicker of pulse rifle fire lit the night, the last holdouts of the resistance battling the inevitable. His nano-enhanced senses could pick out every detail of the carnage, every agonized face, every spilled drop of blood. Once the sight would have horrified him, would have filled him with a righteous fury. But now he felt nothing. Nothing but a cold, pitiless certainty. This was the way of things. The strong ruled, the weak perished. It was the nanotech whispering in his mind, the icy logic of the machine overriding the weaknesses of the flesh. He had fought it for so long, clinging to the tattered remnants of his humanity. But in the end, it was futile. The enhancement had won out, had reshaped him into a being of pure, merciless purpose. He was more than human now, more than the frail, mewling creatures that scurried in the ruins of their fallen world. He was the future, the next step in human evolution. And if that future required the destruction of the old order, then so be it. A flicker of motion caught his eye, and he turned, his hand dropping to the pulse pistol at his side. A figure was approaching across the rubble-strewn plaza, a lone silhouette against the hellish glow of the fires. For a moment, he tensed, ready for battle. But then he recognized a quiet purpose in that stride, the balance and poise that bespoke the nanotech's touch. "Kira," he said flatly as his old comrade drew near. "I thought you were leading the assault on New Baghdad." "I was," she replied, her voice as cold and emotionless as his own. "The city is ours. The resistance is broken." "Good," he nodded. "One less thorn in our side." She cocked her head, studying him with those icy, unreadable eyes. "You seem troubled, Jace. Do you doubt the righteousness of our cause?" "No," he said slowly. "No, I don't doubt. Not anymore. The nanotech has shown me the truth. Humanity is weak, flawed. We are the cure for that weakness, the blade that will excise the rot." "And what of the Zorgans?" Kira asked. "While we wage war against our own kind, they gather their strength. They prepare for the final assault." "Let them come," Jace snarled. "We will meet them on the field of battle, and we will triumph. For we are more than human now. We are the next evolution of our species, the harbingers of a new age." But even as he spoke the words, a flicker of doubt stirred in the depths of his mind. The nanotech recoiled from it, seeking to smother it beneath a tide of cold certainty. But it persisted, a faint, stubborn ember of the man he had once been. Was this truly their destiny? To turn their strength against their own kind, to burn and slaughter until nothing remained but ashes and echoes. Was this what they had fought for, bled for? He remembered the camaraderie of the Sigma Force, the shared purpose that had bound them together. He remembered the ideals they had sworn to uphold: freedom, justice, the fundamental dignity of all people. Had it all been a lie? Or had they simply lost their way, seduced by the siren song of power? Kira was watching him, her gaze sharp and probing. "You doubt," she said softly. "You question the path we have chosen." "No," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "No, I am loyal to our cause." "Are you?" she asked, and there was a strange intensity in her words. "Are any of us? The nanotech has changed us, Jace. It has made us strong, yes, but at what cost? Can we truly claim to be fighting for humanity when we have sacrificed our own humanity in the process?" He stared at her, shocked by the hint of emotion in her voice, the first crack in the icy facade of the enhancement. "What are you saying, Kira?" She stepped closer, her eyes burning into his. "I'm saying, maybe it's not too late. Maybe we can still find our way back, can still be the heroes we once were. But we have to choose, Jace. We have to fight, not against the unenhanced, but against the darkness within ourselves. He reeled back, his mind racing. Could it be true? Could they break the hold of the nanotech, reassert their free will? It seemed an impossible dream. But in that moment, gazing into Kira's eyes, he felt a flicker of something he had thought long dead. Hope. He drew in a shuddering breath, feeling the weight of destiny pressing down upon him. The road ahead would be hard, perhaps impossible. They would have to fight, not just the Zorgans, but their own kind, the lost and the damned, those consumed utterly by the power of the nanotech. But for the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of purpose beyond the cold calculus of conquest. He felt like a human being again, flawed, yes, but striving, reaching for something greater. "All right," he said softly. "All right, we'll fight. We'll find a way to break free, to be the shield that guards humanity, not the sword that destroys it. But Kira, it won't be easy. We may not survive it." She smiled then, a fierce, feral thing. "We're Sigma Force, Jace. Since when has easy ever been our style?" He laughed at that, feeling a sudden lightness in his chest. The road ahead was dark and uncertain, but for the first time in an age, he felt a sense of real, unburdened joy. They were flawed, broken creatures, but in their brokenness, they had found a kind of strength. The strength to fight, not just for survival, but for the soul of their species. The strength to be human again, in all its messy, complicated glory. And perhaps, just perhaps, that would be enough. The end.